Hello there, it's Sarah from Paper Lovely. Thanks for joining me today. I have got a couple of cards to share with you using the Spellbinders October Small Die Kit. There I gave you a quick look at what came in the kit, and I'm showing you the paper pad that I'm going to be using for my background papers for all 4 cards. That is by Jen Hatfield Homemade, and it's called Warm and Cozy. So for this first card, I am going to follow along with the sample card that they send along with the die set. I've grabbed a piece of MFT Safety Orange cardstock, and here you'll see I've trimmed out the top portion of the acorn as well as the bottom. Now you'll notice there that I had cut out the words, but I didn't get the shape of the acorn. There are 2 pieces to this die, so you can actually cut out just a solid acorn if you'd like, and then if you wanted to have the script in it, you'll add the script portion in the center of that. So if you want to have the script inside the cutout acorn, make sure you're using both pieces at the same time. But here you can see that luckily I didn't have my pieces so close that I was able to go ahead and add that afterwards and just trim around the piece that I had already cut. Now here I'm taking just that solid acorn. This is going to create my background, and I'm trimming that out using MFT's Primitive White. Next I'm going to grab some art glitter glue, and I will go ahead and put all of these pieces together. Next I'm going to grab a card base, and this is made from MFT's Milk Chocolate cardstock, and I'll add some art glitter glue along the top 3/4 of that card base. Here I've grabbed a piece out of that Jen Hatfield paper collection, and I'm going to go ahead and place that down. This has a really nice caramely brown color that runs through the plaid, and it matches the safety orange color of the acorn really well. So I will go ahead and trim off the excess there. And then I've grabbed some pop dots, and I'm just going to place those behind my acorn, sort of strategically positioning those so you won't see them through the cutouts at the top. And then I'm going to go ahead and peel away all the backings. And I'll place that down on top of my card front. Then to add an extra little sentiment on the front, I've gone to the Tim Holtz Small Talk stickers, and I've trimmed off a piece here that says Nature's Wonder. Again, I'm going to add some foam tape to the back of that, and I did do a double layer just to make sure that I was able to match the thickness of the foam tape that I had used behind the acorn. Go ahead and stick that down. And then here for the inside, I've got a Nina panel trimmed to 4x5 1/4, and I'm going to use another one of those Small Talk sentiments. This one says, "A falling leaf is autumn's splendor," and I just centered that there. I'll add a little bit more art glitter glue and place that on the inside of my card base. And that will complete card number 1. So for card number 2, I decided I wanted to create a shaker. So I have again gone ahead and cut out this acorn, and this time I've used MFT's chili powder. I've also used that solid acorn shape. Instead of the white background, I've cut out a piece of acetate. And I'm using my art glitter glue here. I've just placed that all along the back in small dots, and I will place that acetate down on top there. Here I've got another piece from that Jen Hatfield collection. I'm going to trim that down to 4x5 1/4. And I'll use some art glitter glue to attach that down to the top of a card base. This is also made from MFT's chili powder. So now that my acetate has dried, I'm going to use some 1/4 inch score tape, and I'm just going along and I'm going to add that as close as I can to the edge of this acorn. This was really tricky. That's a very, very thin line, and you'll see here in a minute what I ended up doing is I had a little bit of it sticking out around the edges. I just took my scissors and trimmed that down, and you'll see I am somewhat stretching that just to try and make it a little bit thinner. As I move it around there, you'll see a little piece of it tore, but that's okay. I'll just add the next one right next to that. And because I wanted this to really allow the sequins to move, I did do a double layer of this. Here you'll see I'm taking my scissors and just trimming off that little bit of an excess. I went at sort of an angle, so I was keeping as much of the tape as possible, but I didn't have anything sticking out over the edges. Next, I've grabbed a sequin mix. This is from Neat and Tangled, and it's called Festive Fall. It's got some really pretty oranges and yellows and browns in it. So I'm going to add a little bit of that down. And then since I had messed around with this quite a bit, I did add a little bit of art glitter glue just to add to the stickiness of that foam. And I'll go ahead and place that down. I'm going to add my block there just to give it a little bit of even pressure and to hold it still while it's drying. And then once it dried, I went ahead and grabbed the top of my acorn. I'm adding a little bit of art glitter glue behind that, and I'll go ahead and place that down as well. Finally, I picked out a few more sequins from that mix, and then I will go through and place those down on the front of my card base. Finally, for the inside, I'm working on a Nina panel trimmed to 4x5 1/4, and I'm using the Simon Says stamp set called Thankful Heart. I'm using the sentiment that reads "so much to be thankful for," and I looked in my stash to try and find a nice orangey brown color and came up with my American Crafts clay pigment ink. So once I stamp that and let it dry, I'm again going to add some glue behind, and I'll place that down on the inside of my card base. And that will complete card number 2. For card number 3, I'm going to use the Thanksgiving dies that came in this set. So here I'm again using that MFT Safety Orange, and I'm trimming out the sentiment Happy Thanksgiving. And then I also grabbed some MFT Primitive White, and I am trimming out the wishbone. So there you'll see I'm popping everything out there. And I decided I wanted just the wishbone, so I'm just going to take my scissors and very carefully go around the edges to make that nice and smooth and just trim out the script that's on the inside. And I did want to make those sentiments a little bit more sturdy, so I've cut them out twice, and I'm just going to layer one on top of the other using my art glitter glue. I'm again using a pattern paper from that Jen Hadfield collection, and I've trimmed down this graph type paper to 4x5 1/4. I'm going to attach that on top of a pool colored cardstock. I am not sure where I got this from. It is this minty blue on the outside and white on the inside, so I know it's not Simon Says stamp or MFT, but somehow it got in my stash. So I wanted to use that because it matches one of the leaf colors on my pattern paper almost perfectly. So as this is white on the inside, I'm stamping directly on the card base, and I'm using the Simon Says stamp Apple of My Eye stamp set. This is a really nice stamp set for Thanksgiving. So for the center sentiment there, I have so incredibly grateful for all of my blessings. And then in the bottom corner there, it reads, P.S. that includes you. Here I've grabbed this strip of this really pretty leaf pattern paper, and I'm going to place that across the center of my card. And then I'll go ahead and trim off the excess. And then I'm just going to position my Happy Thanksgiving sentiment in the wishbone until I'm happy with that. And then I will go ahead and tack that down again using my art glitter glue once I'm happy with the placement. And it's a little difficult to see on the camera, but you actually can read the sentiment really well when you have the card in front of you. For some reason it's just a little bit more difficult to read when it's picking it up on camera there. So hopefully you will get a better look with the final images that I'll have on my blog post. Then finally here I wanted to add a bit more dimension, so I've grabbed my score tape. I'm going to place a little piece underneath the top and the right hand side of that wishbone. And that will complete card number 3. For this fourth and final card, I am going to cut out this wishbone twice, once from MFT's Primitive White and once from MFT's Steel Gray. And then I wanted just the sentiment portion of the steel gray. So I'm gonna just carefully take my scissors and I will trim around where I think the end of the sentiments would be. So it does overlap slightly into the bone. So I'm just sort of looking and seeing how everything would curl around and trying to get it to cut out as naturally as I can. Once I have that finished, I will add some glitter glue behind that, and I'm going to place that down right on top of the Primitive White one that I've cut out. Next, I've grabbed this really pretty leaf patterned paper, and I'm going to trim this down to 4 by 5 1/4. And then I will glue that on top of my card base. The card base is made from MFT's Brick Red. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add some foam tape behind the back of that wishbone. I'm just placing that down as best as I can. Again, there are some really thin lines on this. It's really delicate and beautiful, but it makes it a little bit more difficult when you're trying to add foam tape. So I did end up taking that 1/4 inch foam tape and split that in half so I could get 1/8 inch foam tape, and I'm just adding that along wherever it will fit. So I've gone ahead then and peeled off the backing, and then I decided I wanted a little something more, so I went to my stash and grabbed a piece of twine. I'm going to wrap that around the top and I'll tie that into a bow. And then for the inside, I grabbed a sentiment, and this is from a Stamping Bella stamp. It's called Thanksgiving Oddball, and that actually came with 2 sentiments, and I really loved this one. It reads, "Let our lives be filled with both thanks and giving." And I'm stamping that directly on the inside of the card base using my Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. For a final touch, I'm going to take my Nouveau glitter pen and just go along that wishbone, give it a little bit of shimmer. And that will complete card number 4. Here are a few close-ups of the finished cards. In the description box below, you'll find my blog post, which has additional photos and links to the supplies I used. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a comment or a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.